The auditorium was packed with 200 parents, grandparents, and siblings, all holding up phones to record the fourth-grade talent show at Maplewood Elementary. There were handmade posters, mylar balloons tied to folding chairs, and a smell of popcorn drifting in from the hallway concession stand. It should have been the happiest evening of the school year, but in the second row from the front, one seat to the left of the center aisle, a 9-year-old boy named Caleb sat completely still. Not still the way children sit when they are watching something exciting, still the way children sit when they have given up hoping that the night is going to get better. His hands were folded in his lap, his program was unopened, and his eyes were fixed on the stage curtain with an expression that no 9-year-old should ever have to wear in public. Around him, other kids leaned over armrests whispering to their mothers. Grandparents passed candy. A toddler 2 rows back was laughing at nothing in particular, the way toddlers do. Caleb did not move. He just watched the curtain. The seat to his right was empty. It had been empty for 40 minutes. His father had called at 6:17, 11 minutes before the show was supposed to start. Work emergency. One of those phrases that sounds urgent and shapeless at the same time. The kind of phrase that explains everything and nothing. He had told Caleb to go inside without him. Said he would be there as soon as he possibly could, said he was sorry in that voice fathers use when they know sorry is not enough. Caleb had said okay. He had found his seat. He had opened the program and looked at his name printed in the list under the third act, Caleb Wren, piano, Moonlight Sonata, first movement. Then he had folded the program and stopped looking at it. The lights dimmed. The first act started. A girl in a sequined leotard did a gymnastics floor routine to a pop song, and the crowd burst into applause. Caleb clapped twice, then stopped. His name was not going to be called for another 45 minutes. His father's seat was still empty. Across the auditorium, standing along the back wall because he had arrived late and all the seats in his row were taken, a man named Adrian Cole was watching the same stage. Adrian was 41 years old, a high school history teacher at Jefferson Senior High, and he was there because his daughter Maisie was performing in the 6th grade segment near the end of the program. He had his jacket folded over one arm, a coffee cup in the other hand, and he was doing what parents at school events always do when they are standing in the back, scanning the room, watching the crowd as much as the show. That was when he saw the boy in the second row. It was not one dramatic moment that drew his attention. It was a pattern. Everyone in the auditorium was leaning in a direction, toward the stage, toward a spouse, toward a child. The boy in the second row was leaning toward nothing. He was the only still point in a room full of movement. Adrian had been a teacher for 17 years. He knew what it looked like when a child was holding something difficult inside their body and trying very hard not to let anyone see it. He also knew what an empty seat next to a child usually meant. He made his way quietly along the back wall, then down the side aisle, careful not to block anyone's sightline. When he reached the second row, he stepped carefully past 2 grandmothers and stopped beside the empty seat. He leaned down slightly so he would not be looming over the boy. "Hey," he said quietly. "Is this seat taken?" Caleb looked up. His eyes moved to the empty seat, then back to Adrian, doing that fast calculation children do. Is this person safe? Is this normal? What is the right answer? Then something in his face shifted. The smallest possible relaxation around the eyes. "No," he said. "It's not." Adrian sat down. He did not immediately say anything else. He put his coffee cup on the floor by his feet, hung his jacket over the back of the chair, and looked at the stage where a boy in a bow tie was doing a magic trick that was not quite working, which was making the audience love it even more. After a minute, he asked, "You have someone performing tonight?" "Me," Caleb said. "Piano. Third act. Moonlight Sonata?" Caleb looked at him. "How did you know?" Adrian held up his own program, which he had grabbed at the door. He pointed to the listing. "Right there. That's a serious piece to take on." "My mom liked it," Caleb said. And then, very quickly, the way children say things they have learned to say quickly so adults don't make a big deal out of them, "She passed away 2 years ago. She was the one teaching me piano." Adrian was quiet for a moment, not the kind of quiet that was searching for the right thing to say. The kind of quiet that was simply making room. "She had good taste," he said finally. Caleb looked at him again. Adults usually said they were sorry. This man had not said he was sorry. He had said she had good taste. Something about that landed differently. I know, Caleb said. His name was Thomas Wren, though everyone had called him Tom since he was a teenager. Tom was 44 years old and he was a structural engineer for a firm downtown that specialized in bridge inspection and municipal infrastructure. He was methodical, precise, and calm in most situations. The kind of man who could look at a load-bearing beam and calculate stress tolerances in his head, who could stand on a wind-battered overpass and feel no fear because he understood exactly what was holding everything together. He had not been calm since 6 o'clock that evening. The call had come from the site supervisor at a bridge project on the north side of the city. A preliminary report flagged a crack in one of the support columns. The city project manager was already on the phone demanding answers. The firm's liability attorney was copied on emails. Tom was the lead engineer. He had no choice. He had called Caleb. He had said the words he hated saying. He had heard his son say okay in the flat. Practice tone that 9-year-olds develop when they have heard disappointing news too many times and learn not to react too visibly. Tom drove to the site, pulled up the blueprints on his laptop in the parking lot, took one look at the inspection photos, and knew within 6 minutes that the crack was cosmetic, surface-level concrete shrinkage, textbook and harmless, not even worth a formal report. The site supervisor, who was newer to the job, had panicked unnecessarily. The project manager had overreacted. The attorney would bill for 3 hours of nothing. And Tom had missed the first half of his son's talent show for a crack that was, in the technical language of structural engineering, a non-issue. He sat in the parking lot for a moment. Then he texted Caleb, "On my way. So sorry. You're going to be great. I love you." He did not know if Caleb had read it. He drove. Back in the auditorium, the second act finished. The lights came up slightly for a brief intermission, and children ran to find their parents in the seats. The boy next to Adrian was scanning the side doors, searching for someone who was not there yet. "He's coming," Caleb said, not quite to Adrian, more to himself. "He said he'd be here." "I believe you," Adrian said. That was all. "Not of course he is, or don't worry, just I believe you." It was a small distinction that meant a great deal to a child who was trying to believe it himself. Adrian's daughter Maisie had texted him from backstage to say she was nervous about her violin piece. He texted back that she was going to be wonderful and that he would be cheering loudly enough to embarrass her. She sent back 3 eye-roll emojis which he correctly interpreted as her feeling better. He put his phone away and looked at the stage. "Have you been playing piano long?" he asked Caleb. "Since I was 5. My mom started me." A pause. "She was really good. Better than me." "Did she play Beethoven?" Caleb almost smiled. "Almost. She played everything. She said Beethoven was like running. You didn't do it because it was easy, you did it because it made everything else feel more possible afterward." Adrian thought about that for a second. "Your mom sounds like she was pretty wise." "She was," Caleb said simply. The intermission lights dimmed. The third act was starting. The program was in Caleb's hands again, and he was looking at his own name on the page with an expression Adrian recognized, the expression of someone trying to decide if they are ready for something. Even though there is no more time left to decide. "Is your dad usually at these things?" Adrian asked, keeping his voice casual, conversational. "Always," Caleb said. "He never misses them. He coaches my soccer team on Saturdays too." A beat. "He just had an emergency at work." "What does he do?" "He's an engineer. Bridges and stuff. That's a big responsibility." Caleb nodded slowly. "He says that sometimes the thing that keeps everyone safe has to come before the thing he wants to do." Another pause, a little heavier. "He told me that once when he missed my soccer championship game because a bridge report was due." Adrian did not say anything to that. There was nothing to add. The boy had already found the honest shape of the situation and put it into words more clearly than most adults could. On stage, the MC announced the third act. Caleb stood up. His hands were steady, but his jaw was tight. "Good luck," Adrian said. "Thanks," Caleb said. Then he stopped and looked at the empty seat beside Adrian. Then back at Adrian. "Will you still be here? After?" Adrian looked at the seat, then at the boy. "I'll be right here," he said. Caleb nodded once, like a small confirmation of something, and made his way to the stage steps. What happened next lasted 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Caleb Wren walked to the upright piano at the center of the stage, adjusted the bench with the careful economy of someone who has done this 1,000 times, placed his hands on the keys, and played. Not perfectly. There was a stumble in the left hand near the middle of the first movement, a half-second where his fingers found the wrong position and had to correct. Any music teacher in the room would have heard it, but what the room heard instead, what 200 people sitting in folding chairs with their phones raised heard, was a 9-year-old boy playing a piece that Beethoven had composed while going deaf, playing it with a seriousness and a tenderness that made several people in the audience lower their phones without meaning to. There was a particular quality to the Moonlight Sonata's first movement that has nothing to do with difficulty. It has to do with patience. The notes do not rush. They come one after another like something that has always been true and is simply being said aloud for the first time. Caleb played it like he meant every word. At the back of the auditorium, the side door opened. Tom Wren came in quietly, still in his work shirt, his tie loosened, his face carrying the particular expression of a man who drove too fast to get somewhere and is trying not to let anyone see that. He stopped just inside the door. He heard the piano. He looked at the stage and saw his son. He stood very still. In the second row, Adrian heard the music and watched the stage, and for a moment he thought about his own daughter in the wings backstage, nervous about her violin, and about his wife who had passed away from cancer 4 years ago and who had always cried at school performances regardless of quality, and he thought about the boy next to him who had said, "My mom liked it," past tense, with that practiced quickness. The last note of the first movement faded. The auditorium was silent for 1 beat. Then 2. Then someone started clapping and the whole room came with it, loud and genuine and warm. Caleb stood from the piano bench, looked out at the audience with a slightly stunned expression of someone who has just let something very private become briefly public, and bowed. At the back of the auditorium, Tom began making his way forward. Caleb was coming down the stage steps when he saw him. He stopped on the second step. Tom stopped in the aisle. And then, Caleb came down the last step quickly and his father caught him in both arms and held him there for a moment in the middle of the aisle while people moved around them like water around a stone. "I heard it," Tom said into the top of his son's head. "I was at the door. I heard all of it." Caleb did not say anything. He held on. In the second row, Adrian watched this and felt the specific, bitter-sweet quality of witnessing someone else's reunion, the happiness that belongs to them, and the ghost of something that used to belong to you. Tom looked up from his son and his eyes found the man sitting in the empty seat. He recognized the seat. He had texted Caleb from the parking lot 40 minutes ago and gotten no response, and he had spent the entire drive imagining his son sitting alone in that chair. The seat was not empty. He met the man's eyes. The man gave a small nod, the kind that required no words. Tom nodded back. Just once. The kind of nod that means more than most sentences. After the show, in the lobby, with children running in circles around folding tables of cookies and juice boxes, Tom found the man standing near the door watching for his daughter to emerge from backstage. He walked over and extended his hand. "Tom Wren," he said, "that was my son up there." "Adrian Cole," he said, shaking it. "I know. He told me. He told you that his dad was coming, that you never miss these things." A pause. "He believed it too. I want you to know that." Tom looked across the lobby to where Caleb was showing his program to a classmate with an animation he had not had 2 hours earlier. Something in the set of his shoulders was different now. "Lighter. I got stuck at a job site," Tom said. "It turned out to be nothing. A false alarm, and I almost missed." He stopped. "You got here," Adrian said simply, "because of traffic and pure luck." "You got here," Adrian said again with a slight emphasis that made it not about luck. Tom was quiet for a moment. There was something about the way this stranger was speaking to him, not with reassurance exactly, but with a kind of grounded directness, as if he had no interest in either blaming or excusing and just wanted to see the thing clearly. "He said his mom taught him that piece," Adrian said. Tom nodded slowly. "Rachel. She started teaching him when he was 5. She passed away 2 years ago. Ovarian cancer." He said it with the tone of a man who has said it many times, which is the only way some things can be said at all. She always talked about how the Moonlight Sonata was the piece she was saving for when he was ready. She didn't live long enough to hear him play it. Adrian was quiet. Tonight was the first time he's performed it, Tom said. He has been working on it for 8 months, practicing every evening in the living room. I'd hear him from the kitchen while I was making dinner. He paused. I almost missed it for a concrete crack that turned out to be nothing. They stood together in the lobby noise, in the particular chaos of a school event ending, and neither of them said anything for a moment. My wife passed 4 years ago, Adrian said. Breast cancer. My daughter Maisie's been playing violin since her mother signed her up for lessons when she was 7. Same thing. Her mom never got to hear her perform at school. He looked across the lobby toward backstage. I've been to every single concert since. I sit in the seat, and I try to hear it for both of us. Tom looked at him. There's a kind of recognition that happens between people who have carried the same category of loss. It does not always need to be named. Your son played beautifully, Adrian said. Whatever she was teaching him, it stayed. Tom nodded. His jaw was tight in the way men's jaws get when they are not going to cry in a school lobby. Yeah, he said, it really did. Maisie came out of the backstage door holding her violin case still in her performance blouse, scanning the lobby until she found her father. She crossed to him and he put an arm around her shoulders. This is Tom, Adrian said. His son played the Beethoven. Maisie looked at Tom with the particular regard that 12-year-olds reserve for grown-ups who are connected to things they respect. That was really good, she said. Beethoven's hard. He worked at it, Tom said. Caleb appeared at Tom's side, still holding his program. He looked up at Adrian and then at the girl with the violin case. Is that your daughter? He asked Adrian. That's Maisie, Adrian said. She plays violin. Caleb thought about this. Could you teach me? He asked Maisie with the complete unself-consciousness of someone for whom this was an obvious and reasonable question. Maisie blinked. Then she laughed, surprised. I don't know, maybe. Caleb, Tom said, though not unkindly. What? She's good. I could hear her from the stage. They stood in the lobby for a while after that. Not long. Just long enough for cookies to be eaten and programs to be folded and parents to start carrying sleepy younger siblings toward the parking lot. They exchanged numbers in the vague, sincere way that adults sometimes do when they mean it, with the particular combination of circumstance and recognition that turns a conversation in a lobby into something that lasts longer than the evening. In the weeks that followed, Tom did something he had not done in almost 2 years. He started leaving work on time. Not every day. The work was what it was, and bridges do not negotiate their inspection schedules. But he started being deliberate about it in a way he had not been. He put Caleb's school events in his calendar with buffer time around them. He started cooking dinner at the kitchen table instead of eating at his desk. He listened to Caleb practice piano in the evenings with the deliberate attention of a man who has been reminded that some things do not repeat. He also started a small thing that he had never done before. When Caleb sat down at the piano to practice, Tom would sometimes sit in the chair across the room and just listen, not with his phone out, not half-focused on something else. Just listen, Caleb noticed. Children always notice. He did not say anything about it for several weeks. Then one evening, he stopped in the middle of a passage and turned on the bench. You're different lately, he said. Tom looked up. Different how? Caleb considered this with the gravity of someone conducting a real analysis. You're more here, he said finally. Tom held that for a moment. I'm trying to be, he said. Caleb turned back to the piano. He found the passage he had stopped on and played it through to the end without stopping. Adrian and Maisie became part of their life in the natural, unpressured way that real friendship forms, slowly through proximity and mutual ease, and a shared understanding that some things do not need to be explained. Saturday afternoon park visits. A movie night where Maisie and Caleb argued for 20 minutes about which film to watch and eventually compromised on something neither of them had picked. Adrian and Tom at a corner table at the diner near the school, each with a coffee, talking about the mechanics of their respective professions, the way people do when they have decided to trust each other. Caleb started violin lessons the following spring, not with Maisie, who was gracious about redirecting him to her actual teacher, but at the same music school where she had studied for 4 years. He was not naturally gifted at it the way he was at piano. He struggled with the bow hold, with intonation, with the way the instrument seemed to fight back against him in a way the piano never had. He kept at it. Tom asked him once why he was so determined, given how hard it was. Caleb thought about it for a moment. "Mom said Beethoven was like running," he said. "You do the hard thing because it makes everything else feel more possible." Tom recognized the quote immediately. He had heard Rachel say it. He had not known Caleb was holding it. He put a hand on the back of his son's head. Briefly, gently. "Yeah," he said. "That sounds right." The following October, Maplewood Elementary held its fall talent show. Caleb was listed in the program again, third act again, by coincidence or karma, it was hard to say which. Piano, Moonlight Sonata, second movement this time. Tom arrived 45 minutes early. He sat in the second row, one seat to the left of the center aisle. He put his jacket on the seat beside him. Adrian and Maisie arrived 10 minutes before the show started and found him there. Adrian sat in the saved seat. Maisie sat on the other side of her father. Tom was holding 2 programs, having picked up a second one at the door without fully thinking about why. When the lights dimmed, he was still holding both of them. The second movement of the Moonlight Sonata is different from the first. It is lighter, almost playful in places, as if Beethoven had decided to come up for air. Music scholars describe it as a brief interlude, a moment of relative ease between the famous weight of the first movement and the storm of the third. Caleb played it like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. No stumbles this time. The left hand held steady. His posture was relaxed, his face was calm, and at one point near the middle of the piece he glanced out at the audience. Not nervously, just openly, the way performers do when they are no longer afraid of being seen. Tom was in the second row. Caleb found him immediately. He did not stop playing. He just knew his father was there, and he played the rest of the piece with the particular quality that comes into music when a person is no longer performing for an audience but offering something to someone specific. The room went quiet the same way it had the year before, and in the second row, Tom Wren did the thing he had managed not to do in the school lobby 12 months earlier. He let the tears come because there was no longer any reason to hold them back, and because the seat beside him was full this time, and because his son was playing Beethoven in a bright auditorium while somewhere, in a way he could not explain but had stopped needing to, Rachel was listening. The last note held. Then the applause. If there is one thing this story asks you to consider, it is this: the moment that changes someone's life is rarely the one you expect. It is rarely grand. It is almost never planned. Most of the time it arrives as a small question, a quiet seat taken in a crowded room, a stranger who looked at an empty chair and made a different choice. The empty seat is everywhere. The question is whether you're paying attention.